What's up YouTube? Welcome to update
Hello, YouTube.
number 7, 25 days before the expansion comes out as an early access. My name is Petko and today we're going to be updating the tier list live on stream, checking up how each class is playing against each other on the Mythic Plus scene. Whether you're going to play high, mid or low keys, don't matter, all of this is going to help you see what is actually doing better at the moment. Huge disclaimer, keep in mind everything will be likely changing from a week to week basis based on the tuning they are doing. And whatever is strong right now might not end up being strong, and whatever is weak might end up being strong, you know, so you don't really know for certain, but there's one thing you know, is that I'm going to be here and updating you every single week until the season begins, which I believe is going to be around middle of March. Anyway, without further ado, chat, listen up. To shake up the mood a little bit and to make everybody's happy, I'll be honest, this is one of the first time that I'm so happy to put a spec on a C tier. I love to see it when my favorite spec, Retribution Paladin, is beyond dog shit. I love it. I love it because all of the Retribution Paladin are mad and they're willing to close Discord. Well, you know what? Do it. We need content. Every time Retribution Paladin does bad on a tier list, the tier list popularity becomes really big. So please keep it rolling. Keep it rolling. In all seriousness, Retribution Paladin current tuning is not only terrible, but it's also the design of the spec is quite clunky. I really don't dig how they are proceeding with the Retribution Paladin in Midnight, and I think it's a downgrade from design point of view and also tuning compared to the War Within. So far, the Retribution Paladin has a great defensive toolkit, well, decent defensive toolkit, good utility, but the damage is beyond horrible. I love to see more buffs on behalf of them, because if they don't, you're gonna have a lot of people as a bench warmers rather than just being a, you know, Retribution Paladin spec mains. That's about it, chat. Okay, so I'm pretty devastated. I am pretty devastated by this, but it is what it is in life, you know. Outside of Retribution Paladin, there is nothing else that I've put in a C tier except for the Preservation Evoker, which is a healer, not really a DPS, but Pres Evoker hasn't seen any changes whatsoever for the past couple weeks. Same old, same old. I think the healing wise on Pres Evoker is at times problematic, which is definitely the biggest reasons why you are in C tier. Once you get to have people mispositioning, it's pretty hard for you to keep up the HPS. Damage department doesn't look to be amazing, and the utility part of Pres Evoker can have its niche values, but for the most part, it is nothing that is, you know, outstanding compared to the rest of the specs. Overall, I would say this spec will do a lot better in rate than it does in Mythic Plus, and if we see more welcoming changes, they will definitely bump these spots a few up. But for now, I would say C tier is likely one of the most underrepresented and incapable specs so far in Mythic Plus. Hope to see changes done to them, maybe. Anyway, that's it. This is everything for the C tier. Moving to the B tier. As you guys have seen, a few classes got improved, and obviously there are some that got downgraded. Now, okay, so let me explain how it works. Even if your spec hasn't seen any buffs, your spec can still go down because others are getting buffed. Okay, so I'll give you an example. Let's say you're maining Fire Mage. Fire Mage began at the beginning of the tier list as A+ tier. Okay. Then all the specs were getting buffed, and then your spots went from A+, to A, and now it goes down to B. And to be fair with you, Fire Mage most definitely deserves the B tier spots. I feel like it's one of the specs that I think it can excel quite well on high level keys, but for the mass amount of people, for most of you, I believe Fire Mage right now is most definitely not a great pickup. Your damage outside of cooldowns is very bad, which makes the spec extremely strong on high level keys once again, because you can get your combustion every minute, but for the average level keys, it is definitely a terrible pickup. Also 0 prior damage, and decent ST I would say for the most part. It really depends how you look at it. And the utility part of Mage is definitely good. I think definitely one of the specs that I can watch out from high level keys, maybe around A tier, but for most of the keys, most of you guys, I would say B is a fair statement for them. But there's one spec that is even worse than Fire Mage, chat. There's one spec that is even worse than Fire Mage, and I forgot to place it. And it's gonna be also a melee specialization, boys and girls. Unfortunately, with a heavy heart, I must say, Havoc DH is definitely on one of the specs that right now underperforms on beta. Unfortunately, on pre-patch, things are looking pretty good for them. But on beta right now, while every single spec has been getting buffs, they haven't seen anything. Like, the profile of the spec is pretty good. The defenses are amazing. The sustained defenses are great. Leech, etc., right? But the tuning of Havoc DH right now feels pretty off. That is the only thing that I think Havoc needs to get higher. Just overall more tuning. And because they haven't seen anything for the past roughly a month, I believe buffs are on the way. Very soon, I am pretty confident they will get buffs. And once they do, you guys saw last season what happened. Havoc was like mediocre, Mythic Plus for the most part in PTR. Then it got buffed and became really good. Then it got buffed again and became meta. So I am not counting Havoc yet. I much more prefer Havoc over Mage, for example. So I'm really gonna pay close attention to the tuning of Havoc DH. And as soon as there is any positive stuff coming for them, they will be ranked higher. Also, yes, Devourer right now is better. That's the case. Yeah. All right, chat. Another melee ranked on a B tier. Right now I have, let me check how many melees I have here. I've got 2 melees in B tier and 3 ranges. And we so far have ranked only 1 range and only 1 melee. There's 1 more melee ranked in the B tier. I think for the most people that are paying attention to the weekly tier lists that we do every Sunday, you guys already know which spec that is. It's a spec that is mostly dominated by its sibling. And its sibling, even right now, is stronger in my opinion than the spec that I'm about to say. And honestly, the case of you being played is quite low, just because genuinely I don't see you being fit in Mythic Plus unless there are other buffs introduced to them. If you guys already know what I'm talking about, it's definitely Arms Warrior, by the way. Definitely Arms Warrior, you guys guessed it, most of you. The reason why I believe you are B tier, first of all, is because Fury obviously is a much better choice with a much better damage profile. Your damage profile is flat. Arms Warrior does not have a strong burst. Rather, you just have like a flat damage, which for the most part, it's not bad, but it would really make you a favor for you to have some kind of a burst, because that's really what, you know, capitalizes on like small low HP mobs. So like, you can snipe the damage out of people. I think the single target is also not exceptional. Doesn't look to be insane. Not bad for sure, but not insane. And I also think that just because Fury being stronger, you probably gonna get pushed down. Also, it's a spec you only really play in a physical comp because of the battle shout. Therefore, even less representation right now. I think overall, if I'm looking at Arms Warrior, the playstyle is, in my opinion, more fun than Fury Warrior, because it has like 1 extra button, and there's a difference between Arms in Warrior Tune and Arms here. It's definitely a difference compared to Fury. But I think just the tuning is off. Definitely off compared to like A tier specs, even A plus tier specs. So unless they get buffed, I don't see them getting out of a B tier. For now, at least. Alright, boys, moving forward to a range DPS pick coming right next to Arms Warrior. This time around, we are looking at one of the Warlock specs, chat. Which one of the Warlock specs goes as the worst lock spec so far in Midnight Beta? What do you guys think? Definitely Destruction Warlock comes as the worst lock spec. Now, let me ask you a reason, chat. Why do you think Destro is the worst spec? I'm gonna tell you the reason why I think it is. And I'll tell you the reason why it's in a bit here. But why do you guys think Destro is in a bit here? Why? What is the reason? Let's see if chat knows. 0 single target, definitely one of the major reasons. Yes. Yes, that is true. And there's one more reason, by the way. The Apex Talent only damage was the case before the nerf. The problem is they nerfed the Apex Talent significantly by half, and they did not give you compensation. So it makes you damage quite RNG. Plus, on top of it, it makes your single target pretty much non-existent. Right? So that's about it. I think if they shift the damage towards, like, if they buff Chaos Bolt, I'm telling you right now, if Destro gets a Chaos Bolt buff by, let's say, 30%, automatically Destro becomes at least A. It depends on how much more buffs they get, because keep in mind, the best build for Destro right now is a Chaos Bolt based build. Even like Master Wii with Diabolist, you still Chaos Bolt, right? So it really depends on what they're gonna buff. I am definitely certain they will buff Destro, because the single target right now is among the lowest M+. Or you get to buff the capstones, another major reasons why Destro is bad. All of your capstone talents, or at least most of the capstone talents, are really bad. Are really, really bad. Which makes the whole contribution on like single target pretty much non-existent. So that's another reason why I think Destro is definitely a underperformer so far, at least across every other spec. All right, and there's one more spec that I've placed in a bit here, and that's also gonna be a little bit of controversial pick, but I believe the following spec to be a bit here, and that's gonna be, chat, a range spec with a very strong utility toolkit, a combat resurrection, and most importantly, known as a glass cannon spec, which means quite squishy, in other words. Ladies and gentlemen, it is most definitely Balance Druid going on a BTR. Keep in mind that Balance was actually part of the lower BTR gang, and I have improved their rating by placing them on the very top of the BTR, perhaps lower A tier. Now, there are several reasons for that. First of all, no, Boomy did not get any buffs this week, but there was a new build discovered on Balance Druid, which plays Elun's Chosen, which makes Balance Druid sustain AoE damage and burst damage a lot better. Now, do keep in mind that your burst is still pretty much one of the worst compared to most specs, unless you have CA, just because your ramp up time is higher, disregarding what they say about mastery rework, and you don't need Moonfire or Sunfire or to damage. Yeah, that's all Fugazi, okay? You definitely still have a long time to ramp up compared to most specs, which most definitely suffers if you don't play extreme high level keys, okay? Keep that in mind. That is another reason. Single target, another major reason why I believe Balance can also struggle. ST does not look impressive. At most average, and that is on a very good day after 3 shots of vodka and a whole pizza for yourself. You know, even after this, I might still consider you low DPS on single target. So definitely a spec that I'm paying close attention, and I'm really hoping to see some further changes on behalf of them. And that's about it. That's about bit here. That's what we conclude on a bit here. That's all the DPSers so far that are underperforming, and I really love to see them adjusted. I'm fairly confident that all of those that I just discussed will likely gonna get some future changes, especially things like Balance Druid and Deathlock and Havoc DH. So I'm very confident they will get some buffs. Those 3, I am very, very confident. I've added a few healers here on the bit here. There is obviously Holy Priest, the first one, right here, which nothing has changed for Holy Priest and Mistweaver Monk. Now, for the Mistweaver Monk, we had some discussion on YouTube past couple of days with several. I believe there's like one guy that was very, very passionate about Mistweaver Monk, and we had a discussion. So here's my TLDR for Mistweaver, and here's what I believe they are at most BTR performer. First of all, Mistweaver most definitely have decent HPS. You know, that's definitely something that you can carry yourself, heal targets, heal your party. That's fine. The problem is you have mana issues. Your damage contribution is pretty non-existent. Your whole toolkit is balanced around physical meta, which for the most part, right now you get to be bullied by the Premaster Monk. And last but not least, your external defensive cooldowns are the worst in Mythic Plus across all healers. Those are my representation of those are my criteria. So why do I believe Mistweaver is part of the B tier gang? Like healing wise, you definitely don't do that bad though. On the opposite, Holy Priest, I believe Holy Priest struggles in like mass AoE healing. Definitely one of the checks where you definitely will struggle. On a pure single target healing, you'll do better. Toolkit, my opinion, is better than Mistweaver and have better externals too. And the damage also is better. So I guess pros and cons between those two right now. So yeah. All things considered, I would say they are a B tier competitors for now. WindWalker Monk promoted from C tier to B tier to the bottom of A tier. Now, good news for the monks. The buffs has definitely helped you become a better spec. Your front-loaded burst damage is absolutely a menace. It is actually quite good. Unfortunately, the sustained damage is worse than a Protection Paladin AoE. So, big spike of damage, dog shit sustain, right? Now there are several ways you can actually play around this. The first one is mostly gonna be in a physical comps with Prot Warrior because of your Mystic Touch, which doesn't really pull as big because most of the time whenever you play melee comps, you don't play major 3 to 4 packs together, you play like smaller pools, which can be fine for WindWalker Monk, but there's several things that are problematic. First one is you're pretty weak defensively. Second, you're actually doing no damage outside of major cooldowns. And you can play a build, for example, Shadowpan has more sustain but lesser burst. But I believe the burst damage is exactly why people love Monk, because you can actually melt a pack. No funnel damage, but your prio is actually pretty good because you kick a lot in the AoE damage. So I'll say for the most part, Windwalkers actually they don't do that bad as people think, and I actually like the gameplay. For Monk, if you don't play Spinning Crane Kick, I think the gameplay is immaculate. Let's just say that, okay? Immaculate. And if you're planning to main Monk in next season, you might be in a Q simulator for a long time. But that's just, extra noise. Anyway, moving forward. Outside of the Monk, there are several more melees unfortunately placed in a B tier, actually in A tier. I want to say something. There is only one ranged in this tier. Next in line, right next to Monk, is gonna be Assassination Rogue. Now, before you start to do Monasa Rogue, let me tell you the reason why I believe Asa Rogue is there. I think Asa Rogue is a spec that can definitely benefit from having high level keys. And you can do a lot better on a high level keys compared to low level keys. But if I have to consider all key levels, I think here is a fair statement. Okay. Energy issues, yes. Long ramp up time, yes. Much more difficult to play, which is another reason why a lot of people are avoiding to play Asa, because the barrier to entry is still pretty high compared to other specs. Okay. And obviously the energy issue is most definitely annoying. I really don't like it. But I've been assured that it's a bug and it will get resolved very soon. Okay. The quality of life updates on Assassination Rogue has helped them a lot compared to the Warcraft 10. It is true you no longer need stealth to do damage. You can apply a Garrote without stealth, but still, outside of stealth, you're still gonna do more damage once you do the opener this way. Your bleeds are Garrote and Rapture. Those are your bleeds pretty much. Poisons are just magical damage. I don't count them as bleeds. They are just like damage over time effects. Right. That's all. But yeah, I think if you're playing Asa Rogue on high level keys, I think this spec becomes A+ tier. 100%. I'm not even questioning it. But for the sake of that, for the sake of like everything, I'm just gonna say A tier is probably where more people will be playing Asa at. Enhanced Shaman is right next to Rogue. Now, a lot of things I can say about Enhanced. For the most part, this pick is absolutely fun to play. Guarantee you, you play Enhanced, you love it. But I don't think the tuning is as good to be higher than A tier. It's definitely struggles to compete on like overall output compared to all of the other specs that are placed on the S or A plus tier. But I believe because of the utility, you might be picked up in keys where others, even if others can do more overall output than you might get picked up in keys just because of the whole toolkit of Shaman. Yeah, squishy, fun playstyle, great damage profile because you can do AoE while doing single target to the main target, which is actually pretty fun. Good burst as well. Just the numbers, tuning wise, quite on the lower side. I love to see some enhanced buffs. Shout out to enhanced players that way. Next in line is gonna be Subltey Rogue. Subltey Rogue, in my opinion, although it hasn't seen much changes, I still believe it's gonna be one of the best entry specs for Rogue to play. I believe the front of burst damage is likely the best quality you have on top of the poisons you do have. However, here's the deal. Sustained damage off your cooldowns, not amazing. Single target, not looking amazing. Overall, average pickup at most. Average pickup at most right now. And before you tell me anything, any spec can be exceptional if the player behind it is exceptional. You have to assume that everybody has equal skill whenever you measure the strength of each class. Because you cannot tell me, oh, but Shadrik can make Havoc DH S tier. Sure, you can say the same thing about, let's say, Corona playing Balance Druid. He can probably make it S tier. Or who is a good lock player that streams lock? Shelly. Shelly can make Destro S tier. Probably he can. Or Davneo can play WindWalker Monk and make it S tier. He probably can. Right? So it's not really up for arguments. We're trying to compare this in like different point of view, okay? So I think for the most people, Subltey Rogue was gonna end up being average. At most. Maybe above average. But there's one good thing is that Sub has a very nice frontal burst. Like you can actually destroy the pack before people even realize it. Survivability wise pick in the game. Unholy Decay. Unholy Decay, hands down, an absolute menace. Absolute menace. It is extremely tanky. And even though you have been getting nerfs left and right, it is still, in my opinion, in a decent spot. You do good single target, you do very good burst damage, and for the most part, grips can also be quite useful. However, sustained damage looks to be on the lower side, which is the main reason why I believe you are not looking to get into the A plus or S tier. I think A tier for now is going to be an adequate spot for you. Upper A tier. That's about it. And I believe you're going to be a better pickup for Raid, Shadow Priest, and Feral Druid. You guessed it, brother. 1 second, where's the Feral? And I'll explain to you why Feral goes there. Listen up. Listen up. Listen up, chat. Shadow Priest. It is true, Shadow Priest are actually quite fun to play. It is true, Shadow Priest quite fun to play. But I believe you lack the output to be placed anywhere above A tier. That's it. I have nothing else bad to say about Shadow Priest. You just lack the output. That's it, chat. The sustained damage is just not there. The burst is good. The proud damage is good. The funnel is good. The utility is good. Defensive part is even good. Sadly, the output is not there, in my opinion. Feral Druid, on the opposite. Feral sustain is insane. The burst damage is insane. The utility is insane. They're even tanky. The problem is, Feral single target is pretty much non-existent. There's several ways they can approach the situation. The first way is buff their shred, buff their rake, buff the auto attack. Second way is to buff the apex talents to do more single target. Those are the ways that you can make Feral better in Mythic Plus. ST right now is definitely problematic. However, I'm pretty certain they'll buff Feral ST because right now in Raid, that means they're horseshit. And if they are horseshit in raid, you are probably going to get buffed. And if Pharaoh gets buffed, that will 100% solidify your placement in the physical meta. Are MM Hunter and BM Hunter. And I will explain why. Hunter's Mark is absolutely irrelevant in Mythic Plus for the most part. For the most part, it is. For the most part, okay? I think the damage profile of both specs is extremely good. And I will probably play BM over MM, just because in my opinion, BM does better single target than MM Hunter. But MM Hunter does better front load burst. In any of the cases, these specs belong to the A tier. Maybe like that. In the most cases, these are A tier performers. Okay. But I think I'm gonna put him in the slippery slope just for the sake of the tier list, and I will make him A tier in the Ice Advanced Future tier list just because of this. The TLDR is the damage profile can be compatible with A+ tier, but you don't have the utility to back it up, like party buffs, because most of the specs on A+ tier have a strong party buff that enables them to do even more damage. Okay. And second thing is, you can only really shine in like full physical comps because you can benefit a lot from having an actual Brewmaster buff plus Warrior buff together, and they'll be insane in my opinion. But for now, I'm just gonna say you end up in a in-between, but for the sake of the tier list, it's probably gonna be like that, for the sake of the tier list. Okay? Possible meta tanks. They did not get changed from last week. We've got Vengeance DH, we've got Brewmaster, and we've got Ret Paladin. Why are there possible tanks? Fairly easy answer. Vengeance DH right now has a lot of bugs that makes them tankier and do more damage than what they should already do. If they hotfix this, they would probably drop a tier or so. Right now, they have insane sustain, insane damage, amazing party utility, good group utility as well. So most definitely one of the strongest, if not the strongest tank in the current state. Brewmaster, on the other hand, amazing boss damage, amazing AoE output as well, super tanky, by the way, one of the tankiest Brewmasters we ever known so far. The main contender for a tank meta, which in my opinion is, physical meta, which in my opinion right now is actually quite competitive, okay? Protection Paladin, on the other hand, has everything those tanks have, including the nice mob control, but they're less tanky than them. They are squishier, and they can die a lot, which means for the average level keys, Ret Paladin might be insane, but for the highest of the highest keys, you might struggle to live. Yeah. I think that's what I think are the possible meta tanks so far in Midnight. Things might change for them. On the other hand, we have here Blood Decay. I think Blood Decay, even though I don't believe there's any bad tanks right now, if there has to be any bad tank, has to be Blood Decay. Like, no party buff, the only tank without party buff in the game so far, which is definitely one of the reasons why people don't play as much. I think it has become easy to play, much more streamlined, in my opinion. Not as tanky compared to other specs right now. Damage-wise, they definitely don't do that bad though. Damage-wise, definitely decent. But yeah, everything about this tank screams to me average. It's just nothing exceptional. And we're gonna talk about Protection Warrior and the Guardian Druid. Those two specs, in my opinion, are not as good as the possible meta tanks, but they're better than Blood Decay, so they belong in the A+ tier. For example, we've got a Protection Warrior and Guardian Druid, which is right here. So those two bad boys, once again, they're not as good as the possible meta tanks, but they're not bad as Blood Decay. So Ret Warrior, the second best tank in the physical meta right now. In my opinion, a much more flexible tank to play hybrid comps, because you can just benefit classes that are, let's just say, specs like Havoc DH, right? Havoc DH is mainly magical damage, but you get to have like full benefit from the battle shot of Warrior, right? Overall, they don't do amazing in terms of durability, but they're not bad either. I would say like mid performer there. Or I guess on the extreme high level of keys, Ret Warrior can be quite tanky against most damage, especially physical. But I think for the most part, you'll be fine though. You know, yeah. I think that's about those tanks. Like, they're not terrible. It's just that these guys are better. That's it. That's just pretty much it. But not terrible at all. It's for the most part. And yes, Bear is still easy to play, although it has become less spammy though. At times, you actually, outside of cities, you might be having issues, but for the most part, you're fine. I think that's it. That's it about tanks. So I'm gonna place Paladin and Onshore Yet. So the main reason why I'm gonna place Paladin and Onshore Yet is because they've got massively nerfed earlier the week, then all of the nerfs got reverted into buffs. So I'm really not exactly 100% sure where they belong, but I can tell you something. Holy Paladin is gonna do way better than last week. The mana management is most definitely a feature where they struggled before. After the buffs to that department, they might not have issues. The healing outside of major cooldowns was also another issue where they were talking about, but maybe the most recent buffs will help them to close the gap there. Okay, and last but not least, everybody knows Paladin utility is one of the best in the game, so that is definitely a huge benefit for them. But I am just uncertain whether you are belonging in A tier or A plus tier. So Paladin right now is in between, either A plus together with Discipline Priest and Resto Shaman, or A tier. So that's why I'm placing it Unsure Yet. I will revise it and come back from it next week. That's all, chat. That's all. And I've already mentioned this, but the Restoration Druid has not seen any changes for the past couple of weeks. And yes, they are still the best healer by far, which everybody knows right now. And we really are gonna likely end up having a Restoration Druid meta for next season if they don't change the sustain HPS of that spec, which right now is just crazy. Like nobody comes close to that, which can be a concern on its own. So yeah, Restoration is still the best healer by far, not even close. And the next two specs on A plus tier are gonna be Discipline Priest together with the Restoration Shaman. Restoration Shaman is the best healer for physical comp because of the Wind Fury and their Sky Fury buff, which is quite good, plus the only healer with interrupt, plus good applied utility. The AoE healing of Restoration Shaman is the only concern that I have for the spec. I think the priority heals is good, which is definitely something that can benefit from getting a buff at. Discipline Priest, on the other hand, even though you got a small nerf, I still think you are an exceptional healer. For the most part, your toolkit is quite unique for the most groups. You got a stamina, you got a PI, MD. The way you heal is actually quite good with the big shields, etc., which can make the squish DPS a lot tankier. So yeah, I can only say good things about this Discipline Priest. Well, except that you don't have much crowd control. Only one fear, and that's about it. So I guess that's something, you know. Anyway, chat, that's everything so far on A plus tier. So what do we think about healers and tanks? What is your take, guys? Do you agree with the healer and tank placement? And if you don't agree, what could be the feedback? We're gonna finish the DPSers because that is the most interesting part of the tier list. The A plus tier and S tier. Those are the most interesting parts. Fury Warrior crowned in an A plus tier, currently located at top 3 melee DPSers in Mythic Plus. Warriors in the chat, those are great news for them. You are a top 3 DPS as a melee in the game. Why typing question mark? Although you guys haven't seen much changes, I believe Fury Warrior is still going to be an amazing pickup for Mythic Plus. Whether you're going to play in a physical comp or not, it's quite strong right now. Top 4? Wait, top 3, bro. What do you mean? Oh! We forgot about Frost Decay. Oh shit. Okay. We forgot about Frost Decay. Hold on. We're gonna mention Frost Decay in a second. Yeah, that's about Fury Warrior. No changes this week, but overall damage still to be great. The ST does not look to be insane though, which is fine, I guess, for the most part. feel like it's an area where they can improve a little bit. But overall, I'd say Fury is doing quite well. Even in like uncapped AoE, I think Fury is still gonna be amazing. Alright, so Frost Decay is a spec. I told you guys at the beginning of the video, there's one spec in Unsure Yet, and Frost Decay is one of them. That was the hint. Frost Decay is one of them. So in a current state, I'm unsure where they stand when it comes down to placement, because I just simply don't have enough experience, nor I've played with enough players to actually have them, you know, see exactly where Frost belongs. But I don't think Frost goes anywhere above A tier. I think, if I gotta be honest, based on everything I've seen and played myself, Frost Decay is gonna end up probably in like here somewhere, like somewhere here, you know, which is not bad, but I just need a couple more days to have more accurate opinion about Frost Decay. But if I were to actually rank it right now based on the current tuning, I would say roughly around middle of A tier. So yeah. No, I think you guys are wrong about Pharaoh Druid. Pharaoh is actually quite strong. But Basuna. I'm not even joking, by the way. Not even joking. Shout out to Survival Hunter, the best hunter spec right now in the current state of Midnight Beta. An absolutely amazing gameplay coming from Survival. It is super fun to play it, and for the most part, it is also quite enjoyable. I believe the single target Survival is quite good. I believe the sustained damage is quite good as well, but unfortunately, it really lacks to compete with the top dogs right now. And yes, Hunter's Mark is one of the weakest party-wide utility you can have, or buff, or whatever you want to call it. Okay, so that's about it. Survival is still taking the crown for the best Hunter spec right now in Midnight Beta. As a main in Midnight, and it is personally my favorite spec to play for many years, and I've been maining it for many years, ever since I was old enough to wipe my own culo. Ladies and gentlemen, Elemental Shaman goes to the A+ tier from A tier. Now I must admit, I might have sandbagged Ellie a little bit. Okay, I admit it. I might have sandbagged Ellie a little bit, just a little bit. But I came to my senses, and I'm here to say, Ellie is definitely a contender to the A+ tier. It does not look to be a meta pickup, but it is definitely above average performer. In my opinion, there's several things on Ellie that does not have. The first thing is you are pretty squishy, which means you need somebody to babysit you. And second thing is your sustained damage at times is quite bad compared to before. You have good burst damage, both AoE and ST. You've got a very, very good single target, and you just don't have any prio. So no prio, you complete pad spec, pretty weak defensives, and at times I would say weak sustained damage. But Sky Fury is the best, in my opinion, Mythic Plus buff in a game. Arguably. Very strong single target, very strong on demand burst. So yeah. So A+ for Ellie, in my opinion, is the right category to be put at. Outlaw Rogue, chat. I did not think I would say this, but Outlaw Rogue is actually crowned as the best rogue spec, and in general the best melee spec in Midnight Beta as of now speaking. What could I say about the spec, chat? Extremely good sustained damage, good single target. I would say for the most part quite fun, a lot less APM requirement compared to before. And there's one more thing I like to say about Outlaw Rogue is that it has become a fan favorite spec because of the whole gameplay, right? There's only a few bad things about Outlaw, but I think Rogue in general is definitely quite tanky. I wouldn't say tankier than before, but it's kind of on a same wavelength when it comes down to like tankiness compared to like the World War II, right? They didn't really get nerfed there. Yeah. I mean, I can't say anything bad. I think the only bad thing about Outlaw Rogue is that the burst damage of them is just not as good. That's it. Like, if they had better burst as a spec, then I would be inclined to actually place them higher. Which I don't really think is just... I mean, how could you make the burst better? I just don't think there's a way. That's just it. You know, you just get AR every key, every pull. That's it. Devourer DH deserves to be A+, one of the best contenders right now. And I'll explain why. Hold up, before you judge, let me tell you why. So it is true, Outlaw Rogue did get buffed this week. And it's also true, Devourer got buffed. Devourer is also one of the most rotationally unenjoyable specs in the current state based on their core simple loop. But it's undeniable the buffs made Devourer better. And in a way that you don't think... In a way of like, you get your major cooldowns every single pack. Your major cooldowns are pretty much like 30 seconds or less than that. So it most definitely has pretty bursty damage profile though. Like the whole loop. Better single target, better burst, good prior to at times I would say. And has a lot of ways to combat... for example, dangerous situation. But I must say, if you're not good at cooldown management or planning, you're not gonna do as much damage. I'm just gonna say this, okay? You need to have a good understanding of the dungeons and how cooldowns work to make this spec good. So if you are a beginner's players, even though the rotation of the spec is easy, you might fuck up just because you just don't know exactly what to press and how to actually engage with your cooldowns in a way that you're gonna get them for the important packs. So I'm not sure what I said just makes sense, but TLDR, you need to have good understanding of the dungeons and cooldown management to make this spec work to the best it can. Because it's extremely punishing to play Devourer when you don't have any cooldowns. You just do no damage. But the good thing is you got cooldowns every 30 seconds or so, which makes you do a lot of damage. Right? So just gotta plan ahead, boys. Just gotta be smart, plan ahead, etc. And it'll be fine. Okay? Let's do Augmentation Evoker. Augmentation Evoker, in my opinion, still remains one of the strongest range spec in the game. And one of the highest value specs in the game right now because it plays extremely well with burst classes and magical comp meta right now, which makes the spec even better. Augmentation is a spec that design-wise, it looks to be the epitome of what high-level keys should be. You do a lot of, you give a lot of damage to your DPSers, you make them safer, and for the most part, you also give healing to the healer. Well, I guess not as much, right? However, if the other two DPSers are not good, like Oak might not be the best pickup. In that case, you're better at playing Devastation for the most part. I still believe on the extreme high level of keys, you're gonna prefer Oak over Devastation, but for most of you, 99% of the people, I advise you play Devastation over Augmentation. But for the 1% of the players, make sure to play Oak on the highest level keys. Moving forward, I think for most of you, you guys already know, but right now Demonology is the best or one of the best DPSers in the game right now. The strongest single target by far, extremely strong AoE output too, quite tanky as well, and all of these qualities are making Demonology the best or one of the best specs in the entire game, which I don't think this comes as a surprise to absolutely anybody. It is rather OP. Okay, I don't want to say OP, but it is OP, okay? And the chances of the Demonology getting nerfed right now is... Oh, here's the deal. If there is any spec in this game that I can certainly say this will get nerfed, it's gonna be Demo. 100%. And if it doesn't get nerfed, it's gonna get bug fix nerf. Or hot fixes that are gonna become negative ones. And I can guarantee you that 100%. So the question is... The question of Demo is like, Not if Demo is gonna get nerfed. The question is when Demo will get nerfed. And the answer to that is probably quite soon. Speaking about Demo, I have to speak about Affliction as well. Affliction is definitely a spec that I believe is the second best Demo. Very close together as Demo, by the way. Very strong AoE output. Extremely strong single target as well, by the way. Amazing sustain damage. Quite easy to play. Good prio as well. Quite tanky. Affliction is everything Demo is, except that it does less ST. And that's it. You know, everything else is quite similar. If Demo gets nerfed significantly, and I'm telling you like significantly, we might see Affli meta. We actually might see Affli meta if Demo gets nerfed significantly, which is actually quite good because we haven't had Affliction meta since when? Legion? So like what, 10 years ago, 9 years ago? So yeah, we haven't had Affliction meta, and I pray for the time that Affliction makes it to the S tier, because finally, after many seasons of ulting Affliction, I will be able to be invited on high level keys. So yeah, if there's one spec I am cheering for to become meta, is 100% Affliction, 100%. So that's all I'm gonna say about Affliction. And last but not least, we gotta talk about mages, guys. Mages are still exceptionally strong when it comes down to Mythic Plus. Now I'm gonna talk about first Frost Mage. Frost Mage has the best burst AoE in the game. Maybe second best, it depends on the situation, but the AoE of Frost Mage is absolutely incredible. Humongously incredible. It's crazy strong. The single target is the only bad thing about Mage, unfortunately. Frost Mage ST is just not it, okay? But the AoE is insane. Utility is great. Defenses got nerfed, but it's still good. Arcane on the opposite. Arcane prior target and ST is among the best in the game right now. On top of the utility and defensive toolkit, the AoE damage of Arcane, especially mass AoE damage, is just not as dominant compared to Frost Mage. So I believe you might be swapping around Arcane and Frost depending on the key you're playing. And that's it. That's all. Oh, and one more spec. Devastation Evoker, chat. Where do you think Devastation Evoker exists? Like, where do you think they actually belong? Are they S tier or are they A plus tier? What do you guys think? Are they S or A plus? Chat. I know a lot of you cheer for Devastation to be S tier. I know you guys wish to, but I'll be honest. I don't think Devastation Evoker A plus tier. I don't think they're S tier. And the only thing I can say bad about the Devastation is that you are the best path spec in the game. That's it. One of the strongest AoEs in the game. Quite competitive single target. But there's zero prio. Zero prio, zero funnel. Oh, I guess there is some kind of a prio. With your Azure sweep. There is some kind of a prio. But for the most part, it's just non-existent. And if you're looking for a heavy front load burst spec, good sustained damage, Devastation is the go-to. A Devastation is the new MM Hunter, pretty much. But on steroids. Like, imagine a rich Piana resurrected with twice the steroids. That's pretty much Devastation right now. Maybe you guys don't know who is Rich Piana. Shout out to him, one of the GOATs, the first guys to ever, produce content on fitness. But, yeah. Devastation is actually crazy, boys. Hey, the 5%. Hey, let's go, gang. 5%. Hey, should I show you guys some Rich Piana? Bro, Rich Piana is fucking goated. Look at this. Rich Piana. This guy, bro. This guy is absolutely fucking goated. One of the funniest motherfuckers on YouTube. Actually crazy. Look at this motherfucker. He's juiced to the moon, by the way. Holy smokes. Yeah, he's definitely juiced to the moon. Like, what the hell is that? Like, he did an 8-hour arm workout. Look at the arm, boys. Yeah, rest in peace, Rich Piana, by the way. Rest in peace. Guys, rest in peace. He was a natural lifter, of course. Best tower DPS that in the game? With easy off-heal spec, try Pharaoh, bro. That's it, chat. That's it.